Yo, parish orbans and retrogrades. Today, I have a special update on the goodly, heroic Bishop Joseph Strickland with my friend Terry Barber of Virgin Most Powerful Radio. He talks to Bishop Strickland almost every day. You spoke to him yesterday, and he's about to join Virgin Most Powerful Radio more regularly, which is good news for all of us. Terry Barber, how are you, my friend?
I lost him. I can't hear him.
Yo, Terry.
Yeah, good. We're back.
There we go. We're good. Yeah, how are you doing, brother?
I'm blessed by the best, Tim, and I'm honored to be on your show. And I would encourage all of your listeners to continue to support the work you're doing 110%.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, man. And now, speaking of support.
Yeah.
Bishop Strickland, everything that's happened in the last week hasn't slowed this man down from showing up at something he said he would, the Baltimore meeting of bishops. He's there right now, is he not?
He is, and he's leading prayer vigils, rosary vigils. The man never stops because he realizes that his mission is to introduce people to the person of Christ in any way that God allows him to do that.
Yeah, and he's completely laser focused on it.
I agree.
So what everyone wants to hear from any confidants of Bishop Strickland is, we suspect that this is what got him fired, being so laser focused on Christ and sharing Christ with those who don't know him. Is this his opinion?
I think that's his position. He says because forces in the church wanted to change the perennial teachings of the church, and he made it very clear on my radio show with him, the Bishop Strickland Hour, that can't be done. And he felt compelled even to, and he considers it an honor and a blessing to be persecuted for speaking the truth of the gospel, even inside the church, because he realizes many saints have had this happen to them. Just look at Padre Pio, look at Athanasius, St. Athanasius. So this is not uncommon for someone inside the church to be persecuted from inside the church.
Yeah, this is not a new thing. This is not a new thing. But I mean, look, you got folks out there. I'm thinking of NCR reporter. Reporter, not register.
I call it the National Catholic Distorter, but go ahead.
Yeah, the National Catholic Distorter. This guy was out there in front of the Baltimore bishops meeting. Asking Jesse, I'm gonna actually play this for you.
You gotta play it.
Hey, a lot of your critics, he meant Mr. Fraga himself. A lot of your critics think that you're just out here trying to glorify yourself. You're not actually being persecuted for Christ, but you're trying to glorify yourself. Listen to what Brian Fraga said, and listen to I know you probably already heard this, Gary, but listen to the truly long-suffering way that our friend the bishop responds.
I had committed to be here to pray today already, so I went ahead and came to pray.
Now, would you be able to participate or to attend the meetings?
It was thought best that I not this year just because of all the controversy, but certainly a retired bishop is able to go to the meetings in a normal situation.
Was that the nuncio who suggested you?
Suggested it, and I respect the way.
Okay. Some critics, whatever, might say, like, well, are you here to pay attention?
I'm accused of that all the time, but it's about Jesus Christ, and his truth has to be proclaimed. If people listen to it, I'm willing to put up with what comes with it, which a lot does. But, people can accuse you of a lot of things. I know where my heart is. I spent time with the Lord this morning. I know I'm just sharing his truth in a world that's trying to reject it, So, anyway,
final point. Did they tell you why the move, the decision to?
Well, not officially. I mean, the letter is online, I think, available. I mean, issued from the Vatican. That's really all the what I received as well on Friday afternoon. Thank you.
So Terry, what he said. Look, I'm close to the heart of Jesus, or I try to be, and I'm trying to share it.
Yeah.
This seems to be his And Bishop Strickland is, of all the bishops in the church, the one I believe maybe the very most. This is his perspective is, look, I was too close to Jesus. I was sharing Jesus's word and good news too much. Is this what he believes behind the scenes?
I totally agree that he does. And he's said that. And he said, I'm willing to take anything, I'm willing to go down for the truth. If that means being exiled or whatever it takes. He said, he told me this, life is short, eternity is forever. He said, I'm 65 years old. What can they do to me, Terry? I mean, you know what? How long am I going to last here on this earth? If I'm faithful, then I'm going to have that crown that I get when I die. And so I'm not going to change. I'm going to stick to the truths of Jesus Christ and go down with that. I love it.
So, he's unshakable. This is clear. I mean, this interview happened yesterday in front of the Baltimore meeting of bishops. He showed up to pray anyway. He thought he was going when it turns out that there'd been a change in plans because Pope Francis didn't like Bishop Strickland's message. He said, well, I had plans to be here anyway, so I'm here. But like, is he okay? What is he? Where's he gonna live? What's he gonna do? What does a retired bishop do?
Okay. I spoke to him directly about that question. He said, Terry, no problem. He says, remember, a retired bishop, the diocese is going to give me a place to live. I'm going to get a stipend from the diocese in retirement. I'm well taken care of because I've had dozens of people wanting to give me money to give to Bishop Strickland. He says, no. As a matter of fact, Tim, just last month, we had an event with Bishop Strickland in Riverside, the Riverside Convention Center. And the stipend that was given to the bishop was way too much money. I don't know too many guys, and I've been putting on conferences for 40 years. I've never had other than Father Fessio. He doesn't take a stipend. The bishop said, no, that's way too much money. I gave you the money back. The guy really doesn't have anything regarding this world. He doesn't look to this world for anything other than to preach the gospel. I've never seen anybody so focused every day. But remember, he makes a daily holy hour, sometimes 2 hours before the Blessed Sacrament every day. He loves his rosary. And so his prayer life just exceedingly goes outside and proclaims Jesus Christ. And he's not even affected as most guys would lick their wounds and say, well, I'm not going to come out for a week because I'm just going to, think about what happened. What does he do? No, he goes right away and starts praying in front of people, getting people to pray the rosary, Eucharistic adoration. He's speaking the truth. He hasn't lost a beat. And I think that's what he's going to be doing for the years that God has given him left. As a matter of fact, Tim, he's going to be doing more than a weekly radio show here at Virgin Most Powerful. We're going to be stepping it up after Thanksgiving to 2 or 3 days a week. And we're going to have people calling in and saying, I want to ask a bishop, America's bishop. Jesse Romero is the one who said America's bishop a year ago, and it's stuck. Everybody talks about America's bishop. It's not anyone other than Bishop Joseph Strickland.
No one. But who would it be? I admire Bishop Schneider. I admire Archbishop Vigano. I admire Cardinals Burke and Bram Mueller and Sarah. But when I'm a young, well, I used to be a young American dude.
Young
I'm
a
middle-aged.
That's right.
American dude, red-blooded guy.
Yeah.
Who I spent a significant portion of my time, over a decade in Texas, playing sports. That's the Texas culture. You play certain sports. And that was what I cared about. When I came to the faith, I noticed, when I came back to the faith, I should say, I noticed there aren't any manly bishops that I really know. This guy grew up a lot like me. Bishop Strickland is the exception. You trust him because he grew up in Texas there. He's local to where he grew up, basically local. He played sports. He's athletic. He's thin. I know this is politically incorrect to say, but all these bishops and cardinals, they're fat. They're overfed. Think of the tragedy of Caesar. Caesar said, I want men about me that are fat. I want them stuffed because they won't question things. I look at a lot of the cardinals, even a lot of the good guys, and I'm like, you need to be on a diet. You need to be lean. You need to be fighting trim. And they're not. And it makes me, all of these things, I judge a book by its cover. All of these
Yeah, of course.
Factors in toto make me judge. And I've always felt like Bishop Strickland is the guy for me. He's the one bishop who reached out to me when I got fired by BLM.
Yeah.
You guys have been taken off airwaves. Now Bishop Strickland has been canceled. So I feel like we're all birds of a feather. We got to flock together.
We are, Tim. And I'll just give you one quick story about him. And about 8 years ago, it's on YouTube. There were some young men that he was talking to about vocations to the priesthood. And some of the young men said, yeah, well, most of the priests are a bunch of wimps. He says, oh, really? So what does he do? He says, well, let's challenge it. Let's see who can do the most push-ups right now. He's like 55 years old. And he goes down and he does about 75 push-ups while the young men couldn't keep up with him. And my point to you is the guy is the real deal, man. And he'll stand for the truth and he'll do whatever it takes to bring a soul to Christ. And I think that's why he got fired, Tim. That's why you got fired when you were out in California at a Catholic school. But God brings good out of these things. You see, I believe that Bishop Strickland, that his firing by Pope Francis is going to backfire on this pontificate. And what I mean by that people are going to be attracted to the truth, and he's going to reach more souls than if he was the shepherd in Tyler, Texas. Now, I could be wrong, but I believe that's what's going to happen in the years to come.
I believe that too. J.R.R. Tolkien called this the eucatastrophe, E-U-C-A-T-A, the good catastrophe out of which good things come. God can write straight with crooked lines. We've all heard this stuff. It's all true.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to believe as you're going through the catastrophe that it could be good. I do wonder though.
Yes.
The implications for the church are not good.
No.
Like if we're in a time when a bishop is being demoted, not by King Henry VIII, who's going to defect from the faith and start the Anglican Church because I don't know, Thomas More keeps the faith and says you can't get divorced and remarried and communion.
Right.
Bishop Strickland is one of those guys. You can't get divorced and remarried and go get communion. Kind of like Bishop Thomas More. Well, now the King Henry VIII, that's threatening him and removing him from a position of power is not the Anglican heresiarch, it's the Pope. It's the Bishop of Rome who wants adultery to be enshrined and baptized and has done it. And Strickland has stood against this and other agenda items directly from Pope Francis and the Sankt Gallen agenda. This doesn't feel like eucatastrophe. I mean, maybe it's eucatastrophe insofar as Bishop Strickland's removal is shedding light on how bad Francis is. And we can begin to get some clarity and some truth there. But that part does not feel, it feels like unanswered pain, even if Strickland is tough and resilient himself. The proposition stood for by him, his job being vacated as bishop, feels like, wow, we just looked under a pile of rocks and it's a bunch of cockroaches.
Well, let me just jump in and say, I confirm what you said. I remember 3 years ago in November, I was in Baltimore for the Bishops' Conference. And I was with Bishop Strickland for lunch. And he said, Terry, you're not going to believe what just happened. I said, well, what? He said, the papal nuncio came up to me and put his finger in my face and said, hey, the Holy Father is watching you. You got to stop talking about the deposit of faith because there is no deposit of faith. And then the nuncio walks away. Now, Tim, what you just said about, the marriage laws and all that, dude, as far as I'm concerned, now I'm not a big theologian, but I don't believe you're Catholic if you don't believe in the deposit of faith. Okay. That's just how I see the Catholic faith. And so when he said that, I never told anybody about that until last week. When I found out that Bishop Strickland was let go, I said, okay, I'm going to let it out. And that's what happened. Now, we have a prayer vigil on Sunday here at our chapel with rosary and mass. And here's the difference that I think Strickland really wants to see. I know him quite well because I speak to him on a weekly basis and throughout the week, texting back and forth. So I know him quite well. And I know that he's very pleased when I told him that we're having mass, rosary, Eucharistic adoration for not just Bishop Strickland, but Pope Francis. Now, Pope Francis, every pope, each month says we have petitions to pray for the Holy Father's intentions. Some of those intentions for 10 years, I look at and I scratch my head and I say, I don't think so. But this one I agree, because what he said was, pray that my weaknesses in leading the church can be corrected. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah,
I can do that.
Yeah, you can do that. So that's what we're praying, because the Pope's job is to confirm us in our faith, not to bring ambiguity. And that's all this papacy has done, is bring ambiguity to the faithful. And that's not a good thing. So we're going to ask everyone, your listeners, have masses, rosaries for Strickland, but include the vigor of Christ, because whether you like him or not, he's the vigor of Christ. He's not the superior of Christ, but we pray for the Pope, because you know what? That's what we do. My first reaction was, I'm going to get 1,000 men down to Strickland, down to Tyler, Texas, and we're going to go march right along the cathedral, and we're not going to let anybody in. But that's my lower nature, Tim. I realize that I have to have an approach that is spiritual, and I think Bishop Strickland has made it clear for me that he doesn't want this to be about him. He wants people to pray for the Pope, and for him, fine. But pray that the Pope will lead the church with orthodoxy rather than heterodoxy. That's what I think he would say if he was on this show with us today.
Well, wait, but I want to back you up.
Okay, back me up, bro.
Let's take a second here.
Okay.
This isn't about Joseph Strickland, the man.
No, it isn't.
Everyone agrees, but hold on. I read those words that you just repeated, Terry, yesterday for the first time ever.
Really?
Because I think you spoke them to John Henry Weston or something of
Life Site.
Interviewed me. That the papal nuncio, 2.5-3 years ago, told Strickland, you better watch out.
Yeah.
Preaching as if there's a deposit of faith, a depositum fide.
That's right.
The rule of faith for Catholics.
Yes.
And there's not one. Is that something like that? That's what Pope Francis told the nuncio to go charge a warning with at Strickland. Is that
is correct?
That's the full story.
That is the full story, and then you can understand why.
What are we to make of that?
Well, I think, Tim, I'm going to be honest with you. All right, I'm going to say, I've never said this. I'm going to say it right on your show. I called the nuncio. Okay, I did. I left a voicemail, and I told him that the deposit of faith is all that Bishop Strickland is preaching, and I said, those who don't believe that there's a deposit of faith aren't Catholic. Now, I knew he didn't know who I was. I said, I'm Terry from California, but I just want to voice my strong objection for Bishop Strickland being removed, because he's a holy man. And this idea that the deposit of faith, there is no deposit of faith, that's just not Catholic teaching. And those who believe that are not Catholic. And I hung up.
Well, good for you, Terry. But here's I know you're head, man. I know your heart. You're a good man. Like, that's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about,
what's that?
Is Lumen Gentium 25.
Vatican II.
What I'm worried about is that's the passage in the Vatican II document that says anything the Pope says, we have to give religious submission in our intellect and our will to fully. How this doesn't work with Pope Francis. Lumen Gentium 25 doesn't work. Well, I can't. You said it earlier. One can't even unabashedly pray for the Pope's intentions. I have to go through and be like, I'll pray for this one, line item. I can't pray for that one. I can't pray for that one. If he's truly teaching that there is no deposit of faith, and if part of the reason he removed Strickland, according to Strickland, who I trust, is because Strickland acknowledged the deposit of faith, the truth in Catholic life, then it doesn't suffice to keep talking about Pope Francis this way.
Yeah.
The way that we're keeping two balls up in the air. It's like two parallel lines that someone told us somehow meet somewhere in eternity. That doesn't work. We can't pray for the intentions of Pope Francis in keeping with Lumen Gentium 25. If he's tasking the U.S. nuncio with warning and then eventually discharging Bishop Strickland because he believes in the deposit of faith. How do we do it?
Well, I'm going to give you my thought, and then you give me your thought on this one. Two things. John Henry Newman had this question brought up in 1870 when the infallibility of the Pope came in 1870, and it got disrupted because of war. We couldn't finish it. And he made a very good point that people would be starting to think that whatever the Pope says, you got to agree. But that's not what the Catholic faith teaches. As a matter of fact, in that Vatican II, I don't have my document in front of me. It also says Scripture is above the magisterial teachings. It always has to be in line with the magisterial teachings of Scripture. So I would attest to say this, that we need clarification. I think the church usually, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a historian, the Council of Trent, what did that respond to? All the crummy things that were going on in the church, I don't call it the Reformation, I call it the revolt. Right. And so here's my point. The church has got to be real clear after Francis of what do we do with the Pope who's at least materially preaching heresy? Yeah, that's all. And I think the church will come out maybe in your lifetime because you're still young. I might not see it, but I think the church will have to do that.
Would that I'm still young, Terry. But that's true. That's true. There needs to be an amendment there. Now that looks and is post hoc. I mean, I'm not trying to get into a whole theological thing, but the problem is the way that it's. I'm looking at Lumen Gentium 25 right now. I wanted to read that. It's not. It doesn't look amendable like post hoc, and that is post hoc to be like, well, we meant when it's not a heretic pope. Clearly, that's what it has to be. Yeah. When you don't have a heretic pope, or even sweet Jim Caviezel recently called Pope Francis a Rothschild pope. I couldn't believe Jim Caviezel's on no longer pope's planning either. Good for him. But I mean, clearly I get it. Okay. That we have to only take an ordinary pope's teaching in submission of will and intellect. But it doesn't. The problem is it doesn't say that. And a lot of folks are standing by and saying the good guys are being removed. The bad guys run the church.
That's right. They're being.
And how is this square? It's one thing to have good guys removed and the bad guys run the church when they're not touching doctrine. But now they're starting to mess with doctrine, and they're starting to say we have to believe 2 and 2 is 5. Yeah,
we don't agree with that. And I would say that in my conscience, it says that I can never compromise what I know to be true. And the perennial teachings of the church, if something comes in today and it's not consistent with the church teachings, you reject it. And now my faith is quite simple. Can you tell, Tim? I'm not a theologian, but you know what? Francis doesn't even affect my personal life because I continue to have that relationship with Jesus Christ. I show you the crucifix. That's who I worship. We don't worship a pope. The pope is the vicar of Christ, not the superior of Christ. He has no authority to change any of these perennial teachings of the church. That's the church teachings. That's just not my opinion.
No, that's right. I mean, what would I need to talk to Bishop Strickland himself, because I'm like, look, what are we to do, Your Excellency, with this as a guy that propositions mean everything to me, right? Because I'm a philosopher. I'm a Catholic philosopher, so. I'd read him Lumen Gentium 25 and then be like, okay, but now Pope Francis has said that there is no such thing as adultery, effectually, or
exactly.
So how do we? I'm just wondering what all of this means in the grand configuration of how is history going to adjudge the Francis pontificate? Is it even a pontificate? It went from a bit weird first year or two of Francis' pontificate to quite weird after Amoris Laetitia, to bizarro world after the Summer of Shame.
That's right.
2018. Yes. And it's like 10 times weirder now in synod on synodality times than even in the bizarro world. And here's the weird thing. I talk about this a lot on this show. At least we had some momentum. Everyone after the Summer of Shame was awake and was saying, wow, Francis, we can't affect the change, but we cannot wait till he goes. He has got to go. People stopped saying that during COVID, and that's part of what makes it extra bizarre. He's only ramped up the bizarreness and the material heresy, and yet a lot of people just got sick of criticizing him. And I don't just mean leftists who love what he's doing, but a lot of faithful sort of right of center Catholics were just like, I can't do this anymore. What would Bishop Strickland say to them? Because you know what? A lot of the cheerleaders for his demotion,
yes,
have been the center right Pope splainers. Have you noticed that?
I noticed that.
Not the leftists.
No. You're right, Tim. You're right. And I can tell you what I think he would say. What he always says is, and it's so simplistic. I almost think the guy is like, and he's a canon lawyer, first of all, okay? So he knows canonically his rights, but you got to remember the Pope is above canon law, okay? That's the church is teaching. So that's not going to help. But here's what he would say to those people and anyone he meets. Stay close to Jesus' Sacred Heart. Pray your rosary. Make visits to the Blessed Sacrament. Get to Mass as often as you can. I mean, these basic things that you and I know, but he just reaffirms the fundamental. And then he keeps away from, the problems in the church. Yeah, we can pray because he believes what Our Lady of Fatima said, because he quotes, he likes Fatima a lot. He says, Our Lady said at Fatima that souls are going to hell because no one is there to pray and make sacrifices. So I believe that he's a very penitential man also. I've had meals with him. He eats very mildly, I should say. The guy is, he has great control over his appetites. I see that in him. And to me, that's a holy man. And so he would just say to us, offer up all this suffering in union with the Sacred Heart of Jesus to help redeem the world. And I said, well, I've been trying to do that all my life. As a youngster, I learned that. So he's not saying anything new. He's reaffirming what you and I were taught as kids.
Yeah. And I get caught up in, this is one of my peccadillos.
Yeah.
I get caught up in wanting to apply. I mean, it's what I'm trained to do as a philosopher, as a lawyer.
Yeah.
I want to apply the law to the new facts and go, okay, yeah, these are the timeless principles. Thank goodness for the witness of Joseph Strickland in those timeless principles. But I want to ask him,
yes,
okay, what do we say? And I think I know the answer. I'm not saying it's like an unanswerable question, because
no, just want to hear what he said.
What do we say to the new facts, the new Pope? I mean, this 266th Pope, John Henry Newman didn't have to contend with Lumen Gentium 25, right? He said, hey, scripture is always higher if the Pope says something funky.
Yeah.
With that, Lumen Gentium is an ecumenical document that enshrined even the Pope's non-infallible teachings in a way where it can't even be done. If the Pope says 2 and 2 is 5, I can't give submission to that in my intellect, because as a Thomist, I can't form the phantasms even in my brain that 2 + 2 = 5. So I just get caught up on that. I want to spin it out.
Tim, you can. Bishop Fulton Sheen, another person who I have had contact with when I went to his funeral, got permission to promote his Life is Worth Living in the late 70s. And Bishop Strickland and Bishop Fulton Sheen have something in common, and that is they just preach the fundamentals of the faith. Like Pope is not impeccable, infallible, faith and morals, and go from that. And so sometimes we read a lot into all these different documents. And this is my point: the hoi polloi Joe Sixpack. Don't let Pope Francis affect your faith in Jesus Christ. He said, well, that's easy to say, hard to do. No, you know why it is? Because you pray for him. I don't even pay attention to some of this thing about how we're doing theology from bottom up. It's liberation theology. All that stuff, I just don't spend time, because you know why? I want to spend time on knowing Jesus Christ better and living out his beatitudes and commandments. And you know what? The Pope is not going to be there when I get judged by Jesus Christ. Last time I looked, Tim.
Amen. Is Bishop Strickland worried about the promises by the far leftists at the close of Synod Meeting 2023, where they said all the work is going to be done between now and the opening of the October 2024 Synod? They said it's basically going to be done. They were admitting that it'll be kabuki theater by the time you actually...
Of course it will be.
But is he concerned by that?
Yeah, of course he is. But he's concerned, Tim. But remember what he said in a tweet. Maybe you didn't see this. He said, I can't support Pope Francis's Synod on synodality. It doesn't support the perennial teachings of the church. And that was one tweet that many people bring up all the time.
Yeah. That might have been the one that got him fired.
I think it actually, I believe that it did, because everybody had to get in line on that. And as he told me on the phone, he said, Terry, I can't support that and be a follower of Jesus Christ in my conscience. I can't.
No, well, you can't do it religiously. You can't do it according to the simple principle of non-contradiction.
That's it.
I mean, just this morning,
Tell me.
there's a statement released by the Vatican and Buddhists together saying, here's how we can work together. It's just more
Syncretism.
of this. It's religious syncretism and
Well,
material heresy, man.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't gone through it in detail, but
I hope you do.
it's so...
Yeah, see, I just disregard that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you why I do that, Tim, because I want to keep myself focused on Jesus Christ. When I see these knuckleheads in the church, cardinals, bishops, not coming up with stupid things that do not even pertain to the Catholic faith, I say a little prayer and move on, because I don't want them to rattle my cage to a point where I lose my peace in Jesus. And I see that right now, where people are overreacting and they want to, do something physical to people because of Strickland's situation. Believe me, I'm tempted, Tim, but you know what? That's not the right thing to do.
I know. I deal with a lot of people here that are watching live. We got 300 live viewers as of right now. Good. That are like, kind of like me. They're like, we don't want to be depressed by this stuff. And you're inestimable. Indefatigability.
Oh, that's funny. That's a good word.
Utterly admirable. I mean, you're energetic. You're always upbeat.
Oh yeah.
You're always like, hey, how can I help? How can I help?
Yep.
How can I help? You and Terry, you and Jesse are just my favorite Catholics of your generation. I mean that.
Well, thank you. Any good we do comes from God. We thank him for it, brother.
I know, brother. But here's the thing. I got people that are asking me because they want to go, okay, here's what the Ecumenical Council said. Here's what Pope Francis said.
Yeah.
And here's the timeless teaching of the church. The Ecumenical Council says Francis is right even when he's wrong. That's how people are reading Lumen Gentium 25.
Yeah, that's how they read. I don't deal with that. Yep.
Yeah, and to just say, and Strickland gives a good exemplar for it. It doesn't sound like he's burying his head in the sand, because he does admit, and I think this is why he got fired.
Yeah.
I can't abide that. And I don't think that can be true. He'll say that, and you do too.
Yeah, I do.
He'll say that. There's different temperaments, Some people like want to look at the math and admire. And as Catholics, our math has always worked out. The top line, the middle lines, the bottom line of the equation there. We always can check our work and say, check, that works out.
Yeah.
Under Francis, that can't be done any longer.
I agree.
That doesn't mean that it's fake. Now, a lot of goodly people, mutual friends of ours, think that means that the pontificate of Francis is fake. That would be an easy doubt. I would to God that's true.
I know. I wish that was true, but I don't buy it. Okay, I don't.
I'm not sure. I don't know. But if it's not true, now this is what I want to ask Bishop Strickland.
Yeah,
if it's not true that Francis is anti-pope, in other words, if he really is the valid 266th Peter, then what does that mean? Well, I mean, because we've never had contradictions like this from a pope. And the people can try to say we have, but we haven't. It's
I agree with you.
Unprecedented. What does it mean? Does it mean we're in the end times? Does it mean I want to ask Bishop Strickland, because he's a very holy man. Like, what does this mean about history? I don't think no one should leave the church. That's one thing I know. Stay here.
Of course.
Retrogrades. But I'd love to have a chat with the guy. Maybe I need to have him on the show now.
Yeah, you should. And I'll do my best to get him on. But I am actually going to ask that question on Monday for the Bishop Strickland Hour, because I'm going to say, Tim Gordon asked this question, and can you answer it? And then I'll send him your way. I think he would be happy to be on your show. I really do. He's been on before. Well, look, give him my warmest regards. I was giving him nothing but love on Twitter. I see, like I say, not just the National Catholic distorter hatred from the far left of Catholics. That's expected, but a lot of center-right hope-explaining Catholics were cheering for this guy, cheering for him
to be demoted, led by, I think, Michael Lofton. I don't know if you know.
I know. I tried to communicate with him. He won't even respond to my phone calls or emails. Yeah, because I want to talk to the dude. But
I know, because you can talk to anyone, man.
I can't.
I mean, like, it's charitably. That's what he always said.
Charitably. Yeah. But I want to talk to the dude because you know what? I have something to share with him. I want to dialogue with him. But you know what? He won't do it. And I say this publicly. Michael, if you're listening right now, my number is 661-972-7872. Give me a call, bro. I'd love to chat with you.
You might get calls from prank callers now.
I don't care. I get calls. I give my number out on the radio for 20 years. My phone is always going. I have no problem.
Amen. Yeah. Hey, Michael Lofton, we got some Lofton trolls in the audience.
Yeah.
Tell your boy, Eminem, Catholic Eminem, to give Terry a call and to work it out with him, right?
Yeah, please do.
He's had the opportunity to come on and debate Amoris Laetitia here, and the fallout from Amoris Laetitia. He dodged that.
Of course he would.
Of course he would. But don't dodge Terry, right?
I'm not that big of a guy. Come on.
This is a good man. This is a good man. He'll deal charitably, and I've never heard you speak ill about anyone.
Nope.
Terry, what are we to do? All right, so tell us when, as of right now, the Bishop Strickland Hour happens on Virgin Most Powerful, and when it's going to start happening.
Yeah, it's on every Tuesday, 12 o'clock after the Terry and Jesse show on Virgin Most Powerful Radio. People can get the free app by going to vmpr.org, and you get a lot of good programming, spiritual warfare, Jesus 911. There's just lots of good programming that supports the perennial teachings of the church. Now, after Thanksgiving, we're probably going to go 2 or 3 days a week with Bishop Strickland on the Bishop Strickland Hour. And my plan, and he agrees, to having people call in and ask the bishop questions. So, Tim, you could be, hey, Tim Gordon calling in, asking Bishop Strickland this question. Boom, boom, boom. So we're going to open up the lines. Now, we're going to be careful who we get on because there's trolls out there, as you know. But Bishop Strickland is going to be available more now that his flock and Tyler has been relieved, or he's been fired. And I think he's going to spend his whole life, the remaining of his life, trying to evangelize. He's going to be with Father Chad Ripperger March 15th and 16th in Pomona, California, at our spiritual warfare conference, along with Father Chad, with Don Schneider, Kyle Clement, and Jess Romero. And I'll be there for that. You can go to vmpr.org to sign up for that spiritual warfare conference. We stream it, so anywhere in the world, people can listen to that. Tim, did I mention one more thing about the effects? Yesterday, we had people calling from all over the country on our show where Bishop Strickland had personally touched their souls and their family in a very powerful way. Doesn't surprise me, but that's what he has done. We got a letter yesterday from London, England. Guy's in a convert course in London, and he said it was Bishop Strickland that brought him into the Catholic Church, and he was in tears when he heard that he was fired as the Bishop of Tyler. But the fact I'm trying to say is this man's going to continue to touch people with the message of Jesus Christ. And I think that he's not going to let this get in the way of his evangelization and his role as a successor of the apostles. Because, Tim, you said it, I think, he's still a bishop. He's a retired bishop now.
He's not laicized.
No.
He's just been retired forcibly.
That's right.
That's a sad thing, but yeah, he's still
going to be preaching all over the country. Yeah.
So the VMPR event you're having out in California is in March or April?
Yeah, that's in March 15th and 16th. We're going to have a St. Joseph's Church, which holds about 1,200 people. Every year we get sold out. We've been doing this for about 15 years.
Is that the one I went to? I think I spoke at that.
No, that was a men's conference at our church.
That was at your church, yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a huge church that holds 1,200 people in Pomona, California. The pastor's been supportive, and Bishop Strickland will be there. And I've seen him in action. As a matter of fact, with the people, he will spend whatever time he can blessing objects, blessing people, hearing their confessions. I mean, the guy expands. He's like he just puts all of his energy towards the person of Christ and sharing the gospel with anyone he meets. And he's praying at abortion clinics. He's there wherever there's a need to bring Christ into the world. And I think that's what I like about this guy, is because he's always ready, willing, and able to proclaim Jesus Christ and him crucified. And we're living in times right now. Who's influencing who, Tim? The world is influencing the church more than the church influencing the world. And he said, we need to take it back. We need to go and conquer this world for Jesus Christ. As the end of this month in November, we will be talking about celebrating the Christ the King weekend. And he's very big on the idea of bringing Christ to every soul in the universe.
Christ the King weekend. That's the
End of the
last
month.
weekend of the month.
Or Advent. Yeah, the last weekend of the liturgical calendar. Correct.
Yep. God bless that, man. God bless you and
pleasure.
Jesse. And man, just please give Bishop Strickland my very best. I have nothing but love for this guy. I'm looking over your right shoulder, Terry.
Yeah.
At
Bishop Sheen.
At Bishop Sheen. He reminds me physical bearing.
I agree.
Sheen and Strickland, they look similar. And I mean, highest compliments. They're both noble, regal bearing, and they have different styles of preaching. One's the avuncular, Texan, heartfelt, and the other one is the more grandiose style of Bishop Sheen. But they both are Bishop S, and they look alike. And man, just give him my best, please.
I sure will, Tim.
And all the parish orphans and retrogrades in my audience. I love.
Well, thank you for your prayers and thank you for what you do in proclaiming Jesus Christ yourself in your ministry. And again, I don't get anything. I want you to support Tim Gordon in his work. He's got lots of children. He's got some special need child. And I just think if, this is I'll tell you what, the church is going to be asking you to support the campaign for human development this month. Please don't do it because it's not going to a worthy cause. Send it to Tim. And I think it'd be more efficacious for the church and for the kingdom of God. That's my take.
We'll send it to Virgin Most Powerful Radio as well. I mean, people do have a lot of bucks they're looking to send. And it's like, I was talking to Michael Hitchborn about this. I got to get him on.
Oh, he's great.
Tomorrow or Saturday. Yeah. This is a corrupt, at least morally corrupted donation collection. So find other ways. There are lots of worthy sources. Of course, with me, I got kicked off of Patreon for teaching what the church teaches on sexual relations. So if you want to support me, people out there, it's either the attached locals or the attached subscribe star links, or give it to Virgin Most Powerful Radio. These guys do nothing but good. It's a real.
Can I jump in? I'm going to interrupt you. Father Charles Murr, Murr. You know who he is, and I do a show every Monday with him. He fills in for Jesse on Monday. He said Cardinal Gagnon, who he was the secretary in the 1970s when they did that investigation that Paul VI called for about Freemasons inside the church, and he told everybody, "What do you do with this corruption that's going on?" This was in the 70s. He said, stop funding it. Stop giving money to the local church. Now, that was 50 years ago. I think his advice is still well stated. And I think that's how we're going to stop these people. You hit them in the pocketbook. That's my last thought.
All right. Yeah. And there's a lot of water under that bridge in 50 years, and people kept funding it.
I know.
Out there, even if you don't give a red cent to me or anybody else, lay apostolates, that's fine. Hold on to it and use it on your families. Don't subsidize the evil. Why would you give the campaign for human development? I don't understand it. Please don't do it. That's not self-serving. Hold on to it. Now, what you can do is, and I know, Terry, you're with me on this.
Amen, brother. I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Hold on to your money. Go to realestateforlife.org.
Exactly.
Hang on to your cash, and if you have extra cash to flush into real estate, get out of your blue state, get to a red state, go to www.realestateforlife.org. It's not too late, but we do have an election year coming, a general election year, and they're going to make it very difficult by one way or another to get out of your state, maybe literally. So do it today, www.realestateforlife.org. Terry Barber, you are too blessed to be stressed.
That's right.
You're one of the best, and you passed every test.
That's funny.
I'm going to lengthen that rhyme for the next time you come on. But thanks for joining me.
Tim.
Thanks for the bishop.
God bless you and your family. Keep up the good work, bro.
God bless your family. Keep up your good work too, my friend.
Thanks so much. God love you.
Parish orphans and retrogrades. We will talk to you next time. Day